Welcome to the Wealth Rant. My name's Graham David, and over the last 30 years, I've been involved in running a number of different companies, some really successfully, some not so much. And one of the things that struck me, certainly in the last probably 8, 9, perhaps 10 years, as businesses that I've been running have got more solid, I guess, a little bit more comfortable. I won't say self-running, but you get the point. I find myself trying to look for the next thing. What is it? What else is it that I want to do? How else do I want to get started? And whenever I look on socials, there's always every third or fourth post or video, whatever it's going to be, is always somebody saying to you, "Do you want to make more money? Here's how to make more money. Let's make more money." And I always flick through, watch the video or read the post, and I always flick through the comments, and there's always this sense of the same few comments, no matter how many hundreds of comments they are. They always break down. There's always people going, "This is a scam." There's always people going, "This sounds worth a go. Does anybody know what it's like?" There's always a few people going, "I'm going to try this." And the problem, it seems to me, is this. We have this idea about making more money, and we have this concept that somehow making more money will make us more happy. And I can certainly tell you that having no money versus having a lot of money, you can certainly buy off a lot of unhappiness if you have more funds available. You can certainly avoid things you don't want to do. Let's be honest, getting an early morning bus with everybody is pretty unpleasant if that's what you have to do to get to work. And if you've got a version of your life where you have a bit more money, which means you don't have to do that, many of us would prefer that. But there's only so far that will take you. And what I started to explore is, why does this obsession with making more money exist? And the reality, of course, is that many people struggle. Many people find things difficult. Many people are finding right now, this time, this place, it's it's as though a little bit more cash would sometimes help. And so I started a couple of years ago just talking on the various socials that I use. How would you like to know a little bit more about what you could do? Because the kinds of the dreams and those plans and those things that are mentioned on the socials, they feel too good to be true. And the reason they feel too good to be true is probably because they are. Not saying they're scams, but they kind of miss out some of the truth. I'll talk more about that in this podcast. And what I want to do really in the Wealth Rant is just start to help you if what you're looking to do is make some improvements. And it seems to me that there is three things that we need to consider. The first is making more money, and certainly making more money might help you. And part of the Wealth Rant, and it's linked to the Wealth Formula community, and the Wealth Formula, it is all about getting a bit more balance in your life. See, more money could be what you absolutely need, no question. But it might be that what you need is to be a bit more mindful in how you spend your money. Equally, it could be that even if you get the balance between making money and saving money correct, the real thing you need to do is to figure out what it is you actually want to do with your time on this spinning rock. Because here's what I've noticed. There are people who don't make a lot of money by conventional standards, right? If we take as a whatever standard might be, and yet they seem to have found their niche, their thing. They've got a passion in terms of their pastimes. They have a job that they love. You know, sometimes you are somewhere where there's some quite what might be considered lower grade jobs, right? And you know, sometimes you see somebody working one of those jobs and they just seem really happy. And you've got to ask yourself, is that because they are pretending or because they're genuinely very, very happy? You know, there's the old theory, isn't there, about any job you get, you make it work as best you can for yourself because that's the best way to get through life. You're more likely to get more opportunities. You're going to maximize your time. There's an equal and probably quite fair argument, which is, well, actually, if you want me to be more myself, be more positive about this job, you need to pay me more money. And one of the things I talk about on my socials is, if you are just starting out, if you want to make more money, if you are struggling financially at the moment, to me, there's everything to be gained by putting your time into the work. First in, last out. Yeah, I'll do it, volunteer, because That's the way that you create those opportunities. Now, I understand totally why there's an entire section of people that go, I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that because it's not worth it. It's not worth my time. I'd rather do the bare minimum that I legally can do and still get paid. And I understand that perspective as well. But the whole purpose of the wealth formula, the whole purpose of this podcast, the Wealth Rant, is to get into some details that might help you. So let's first of all think about making more money. What is it that you actually need to do? Well, if you are in a dead end job at the moment and you are thinking, that's it, I just can't survive on this money. I hate to tell you this, but you might need to get a second job. You might need to get a better job. You might need to get a promotion or a step up. You might need to get a pay rise. You might need to leave your job and go somewhere else. And if you've never said those things out loud or thought those things out loud, they might be true. I don't know your personal situation, but they could be true. And there is a real clarity of thought to be had from understanding what you're spending on a monthly basis compared to what you need to earn. Now, it is absolutely the case that businesses will often go out of their way to attract new people. And then once they've got them, tend to think, oh, we've got them now, so we don't need to worry about pay rises so much. Right? This is absolutely true. And this is why, if your business, whoever you work for, is not giving you a pay rise and you would like to work in that same area, but you need more money, you might have to start looking elsewhere. Now, there is a real balance to be had here. So how much do you want the extra effort, the extra stress, the extra time for more money? Well, I come back to my original point, making money, saving money, and finding your purpose, finding your thing, finding your why, as Simon Sinek would say. What's your why? Let's come back to this money thing, which is what we're talking about in a minute. If you need more money, you might need to consider these things. You might need to step up, a new job, a new role, pay rise, promotion. You might not want to do those things, but if you want more money, when it comes down to it, that is what you're going to have to do. If you are somebody who goes on socials and says, yeah, but there's no point me putting more effort in until I get paid more money, I completely get it, as I said at the start, but that's not the way the game is played. If you want more money, you might have to put more in first. You might want to consider the difference between a second job and a side hustle. I absolutely am going to be talking about side hustles in both the Wealth Rant and the Wealth Formula. But when it comes down to it, there's a difference, isn't there? Because a second job is literally you will turn up at this time or you will log in at this time, you will do this duty, you'll get paid this money. When you finish, we'll pay you that. A side hustle, very different. A side hustle is all about what is it that you are um, going to set up? What are you going to run? What risks are you going to take in order to make that work? How much extra effort do you have? And the problem, and this is why so many things advertised on the internet fail, is because you pick something that you've fallen for the advertising. So you've picked something that says anyone can do it. You can do 5 minutes a night. It's really easy. There's no selling. There's no this. There's no that. Well, that's all nonsense. I'm sorry to tell you. You've got to pick something that you are basically at least you can tolerate. Ideally, you quite like. You've got to pick something you are at least a little bit talented at. Let me give you a couple of clues or ideas here. If you're thinking about starting a little side hustle where you volunteer to go neighbour to neighbour, clear out their gutters and their hedges, quite boring, menial, messy, grubby work, I can tell you now, you will find business. You will have people happily giving you actual cash because they don't want to do that job. But if you've got to go around all day moaning and groaning about how grubby and messy you are and how there's dirt under your fingernails and how you don't like doing it, it's not a great idea for you. Let's flip it the other way. If you've ever seen those stupid adverts that say, hey, why don't you market t-shirts? You can sign up this thing, you can get some free art, you can stick it on a design of a t-shirt. All you have to do is market it and then you get a commission every t-shirt you sell. And you go, yeah, I'll do that. That sounds amazing. I fell for the advert. Think it through. If you're not an artist, if you're not a writer, what are you going to contribute for the screen print that's going to make any value to anybody who's prepared to buy it? Why should they buy it? They'll just do the same thing as you. They'll get their own design. They'll go and get their t-shirt. My point is, if you don't have skill at it or some ability, or you're not prepared to put in the hard, grubby work, the example of the gutters and the hedges, you're not going to have a success at this. This isn't because the side hustle was a scam. This isn't because it was all sold as this amazing idea, and all you have to do was X, Y, and Z. It's because it didn't suit you. So if you want to make more money, you ought to be finding, what do I like doing? What am I good at doing? And you can pretty much find some money out of that. You will always find money, by the way, out of doing the jobs that other people don't want to do. Why have hand car washes got so successful in the UK in the last 10 years? Because prior to that, nobody really likes washing their car. They certainly don't like doing the inside of their car. And those things you drive through in garages, 10 quid, 5 quid, 8 quid, whatever, the automatic ones, they never really clean your car very well. And so the whole explosion of those hand car washes is because it's a relatively affordable thing doing a job that you don't want to do anymore. Now, you could find great money doing a similar approach. So, money we have talked about. You might need to make more money, but here's the exciting thing, you might not need to make more money. You might need to spend the money you're spending better. Now, before you start groaning and go, yeah, here we go. This is going to be all about don't have your daily coffee. It's only £5. It's only 25 quid a week. It's only 100 quid a month. I mean, you can start to work out the numbers here very quickly yourself, can't you? But think about this. Every single person I've worked with on this exercise has found exactly, I mean, exactly the same thing. Depending on how old you are, depending on how many financial arrangements you have currently, you will find money that you are spending that you've forgotten about, that you don't need, that you don't know about, that you've signed up for a year ago and you've never used. The gym is a classic one. Online subscriptions, classic one. And the problem is, it adds up very, very quickly. I'm really careful with this, and I realized after 3 months I'd accidentally clicked a button on Netflix or Now, I'm not sure which, and accidentally signed up for the HD Mega 4K. I don't really care about this stuff version for my TV, for which I was paying an extra 3.50 a month. Five. It was not a thing I wanted. I don't remember signing up for it, and it was 3 months before I noticed. Now, here's what you need to do. You need to sit down with your bank accounts. Ideally, 3 months at least, a year is best. You need ideally to have printed paper statements, not on a screen, but on a screen's fine, but it's easier with paper and pen. You need a cup of tea or a cup of coffee or a cold drink. You need a couple of biscuits. You need a thing to plug your phone in, your earpieces. You don't want to be holding the phone like that. And you need to do this. You need to sit down and be prepared to spend a day or two on this. First of all, go through your statements and find all of the subscriptions and regular payments you don't even know about. Check up what they are. If you don't need them, if you're not using them, you don't even remember signing up for them, shut them down, cancel them, go into the platforms, close them, reject all the, do you want to do this for a cheaper price? Do you want this? Just shut them out, cancel them, and you will start to realize how much money you could save per month. I'm going to tell you an amazing number in a minute. Once you start to do that, the next thing to do is to notice that some of those subscriptions you might use, but you might not use them as much as you thought, or you might be paying for a more expensive version, or in some cases you'll think, well, actually, I've been paying for that for a while. Phone contracts are a famous one, right? Car insurance, every year you get the renewal. If you just sign on, you're going to be paying more than you need to. So this is what I need you to do. And this is why you're going to need the phone, because you're going to need to make some phone calls. Once you've gone through, cut out the things you don't need anymore, got rid of the things you've forgotten about, remember to cancel the platforms, start contacting those suppliers. You might do this on their website, on their chat. It's generally most effective on a phone call. So be prepared for that. You might not want to, but I promise you it will be worth it. What you're going to do is to phone up or contact or text or whatever the platform is, each of those suppliers and go, right, look, I'm just checking my expenses. I've noticed I'm paying this much per month. I want a better deal, please. What can you offer me? Some of them will offer you a deal there and then. Now, they might tie you in for another year or 12 months. You got a year or 12 months. They might tie you in for a year, 18 months, something like that. But if it's a good deal, you might be prepared to take that. What you're looking to do is to spend less money. not just get a better service. Better service is all right. I mean, that's a great outcome, but you ideally want to spend less. Some of them will say, we'll give you this, 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 and this. It won't cost you less, but you'll get loads more. Well, that's attractive, but if you don't need those things, opt for paying less. You can always say to them, look, do you know what? Bit disappointed. I think I'm going to have to move. That tends to move you to what's called the retention department, the customer retention or customer save. Basically, they are the ones who will be empowered to offer you what you need to hear in order to keep you on board. Now, every time I've done this exercise, the minimum anybody has ever saved doing this exercise with me, get this, is £100 per month. That is £1,200 this year, next year, the year after, and so on. You can do this exercise every year, every 18 months, and you will find savings every time. Now, £100 a month might sound like a lot of money to you, or it might sound like, yeah, it's okay, but so what? But I want you to think something. £100 a month, this is money you've already earned and has already been taxed. So if you claim this money back, an extra £100 per month in your account. Let me ask you a question. How likely is your employer to give you £100 per month pay rise now? Now, if the answer to that is it's not going to happen, and let's be honest, it's not going to happen, this is an amazing way to make more money and not even get taxed on it. In fact, it's even better than that because £1,200 per year, depending on how you're currently taxed, depending on what you currently earn, for most people is the equivalent of earning £1,800 per year. Imagine you get £1,800 per year, it gets taxed, the government and the councils take their bit, and you're left with £1,200 per month, per year, £100 per month. So the real question is, how likely is your boss to give you a £1,800 pay rise? It isn't going to happen. And so if you combine what I said in the first part, a second job, a side hustle, a pay rise, a new job, a promotion, with the second part, spending less money, you don't have to cut out the things that you want to keep, but you do have to consider cutting out the things you're not even using. Listen, humans do this thing, right? We would prefer to accumulate rather than give up. And once we've accumulated something, it's much harder for us psychologically to be prepared to give it up. Insurers know this. This is why they always offer us a renewal at a higher price because they know that the perception for us is it's going to be a pain and a problem, and I don't really want to give it up anyway. And they prey on that. Now you've got exactly the same thing with all these contracts you've signed, these monthly cancel any time subscriptions, all of those. Most of them know that if you sign up, you are increasingly less likely to go, yeah, I don't need that anymore. Look at this. If you sign up to learn Spanish and you signed up 7 months ago and you still haven't used it, even though you haven't used it, your brain will be thinking, well, I haven't used it now, but I've still got 5 months left. I might use it. Yes, you might do. So why not cancel it? And if you start using it, great. But you're going to save some money, aren't you? So we're thinking about more money. We've spoken about that in the first part. Second part, we're thinking about spending less. And there's a thing I said earlier on, which is an important part to take us into the third section here. And this is about your daily coffee. And I'm just using that as an example, you understand. Let's say your greatest delight in life once a day on your work days is going to a local coffee place. You really like it. You like the vibe. You like the people. You like the coffee cups. You love every part of it. So for you, it's much more than a cup of coffee, right? It's a social thing. It's a spiritual thing. It's a thing you look forward to every day. Now, you might quite reasonably say, I don't want to give that up. And this is the great point of the wealth formula, right? This is what we're doing. We've got three moving areas here: make more money, spend less money, and what do you actually want out of life? You see, if you're just grabbing a coffee, you can probably grab that from anywhere. You can grab it cheaper or you can take your own. But if this is part of what makes your life worth living, you probably ought to keep that. That's the thing that you actively look forward to. But it comes at a cost. And the cost is you've either got to be comfortable with what you're spending, or you've got to be prepared to cut something else out to fit your new budget. Did I mention a budget? Here we go. You need to know what you're spending, what you need to spend versus what's incoming. And so the whole point of the third part, the wealth formula, this is what brings it together. What's your why? Why do you get up in the morning? What are you trying to do? What's your big legacy you're going to leave when you're no longer on this planet? What's the thing that makes life worth living for you? Now, I'm going to give as random a set of examples as I can. And it doesn't matter whether these sound ridiculous to you or you like a couple of these. It doesn't matter. The point is this. If you live for sci-fi, if that's your thing, if you love going to conventions and dressing up as a sci-fi character, and those sci-fi conventions are expensive and you've got to travel all over the country or over the world, and you've got to wear the gear and you've got to stay in hotels, if that's your thing, that's what makes you you, right? And so you ought to be working out where are you spending money that you don't really want to, but you kind of have to. What can you reduce there? So let's take some specific examples. I don't like dealing with cars, with garages, with services. And for tax reasons, I lease my car through my business rather than owning it. Now, I know if you know about cars, you want to buy a car that's 3 to 5 years old, depreciation massively has happened already. You come to sell it again, you move on, you move up, and we're all fine. Or you buy a very expensive car, a collector's car, highly likely to appreciate, and so on. But I can't be bothered with those two versions. I don't want to do oil changes. I don't want to do MOTs. I hate everything to do with that. So I lease. And I not only lease, but I pay the service payment in order so that when there's a problem with my car sends a message to my garage, and my garage sends somebody to pick up my car, drive it away, do the service, and bring it back. And that for me is worth the extra cost because it means that I don't need to do that, but that comes at a cost. So, whilst I own, for example, bespoke suits, whilst I own, for example, very nice, expensive shoes, I also buy jeans from charity shops. I buy t-shirts from charity shops. I buy hoodies from charity shops. It's not because I want to look scruffy. It's not because I don't care how I look. I try and look as smart as I can with what I've got. But on the scale of things, they matter less to me. When I go to work for a client, I want to look proper. So I have a bespoke suit. I have nice shirts. I have expensive cufflinks. But that's what I'm working when I'm just me. I don't want to look scruffy, but I don't want to throw money at it. But you could be different. You might love clothes, in which case, for you, spending on clothes might be more important. But you never eat out because you don't like eating out that much and it's expensive and it's a bit of a waste. But the next person might love eating out. So for them, it's all about how do they figure out to have enough funds and enough money to eat out where they want to eat out. So this is your balance. Make more money, save more money. And how do you actually want to live? Part of the reason that I set up my business the way I set it up was, and it sounds like a joke, I don't want to work for a living. And everybody goes, yeah. No. I put huge numbers of hours in for my businesses, but I love doing what I do. So even when I don't want to be there, even if I've got a slightly tricky group that I'm working with, even if I've had to go into a city that I don't want to go into and start at 5 o'clock in the morning, even if it's a topic that it's not one of my favorites, even with all of those things, I basically like doing what I do, which means that I can go out and work and earn very good money in my business. And even on a tough day, I come back pretty happy. And that's the balance that we're trying to find. We're trying to figure out what's our reason why. We're trying to understand this because if we get this right, this is our wealth formula. And nobody can tell you what your wealth formula is. And if you've never thought about it, this is what the wealth formula is about. This is what the Wealth Rant, this podcast, is all about, helping you find what your balance is. So I want you to understand what's the money you need to make? What's the money you need to cut down on your spending? And how do you want to live your life? Where is it you want to go? Again, great example. There's no point working harder and harder and harder to make more and more money if actually your greatest joy in life is finding old books, sitting down, listening to vinyl and reading a book. If that's your life, if that's everything that means everything to you, you can probably cut down on some of your expenses because that's all you need. You can maximize your time to read. Not everybody wants to get promoted. But for some people, getting promoted in the corporate rat race, right? It's very common to say, "Oh, corporate rat race, it's all nonsense. Who cares? That I don't believe in it." Again, if you feel like that, that's great. But for some people, it's everything. It's their identity. They like the sense of authority. They like the sense of responsibility. They like seeing how far they can go in their career. And if that's you, brilliant. So the wealth formula is all about finding this. That's what I would like you to start considering. And that's really the balance of the wealth rant. That's really what I've been talking about today. Life gets so much easier if you know why you're doing what you're doing. Life is much, much easier to cope if you think, right, well, a year from now I should be here, then this will happen, and this will happen. If you're in a day by day struggle, getting up to do a job you hate, struggling to have enough money to pay for things, wondering what it's all for, that's a really difficult situation. And so I'd like you to consider really what exceptions are there. There are always going to be exceptions. If you're in massive debt, it's all about making enough money. If you've just lost your job, if your partner's ill, if you're ill, if you've had some problems, if you're rebuilding your life, you've had some major life changes, you're into clarity. You're into, I need to pay the bills. I need to cut my costs. The nice coffee in the shop's going to have to wait. Graham, you have to send your car back. You can't afford it anymore. That's where you are. But those times are often and should be, to a degree, temporary. You have the chance to reset, to think a little bit more clearer than you have been for a while. Think about all those people you've seen who say they've gone bankrupt. They've suddenly they've had the chance to breathe, to think. Think about all those people that have told you they've beaten addiction to drink or drugs or gambling, and they said, there's that moment. It's often talked about hitting zero, and then they go, oh my gosh, I feel free. I can now understand what I need to be. I understand my life's purpose. That's the wealth formula we're trying to get to without the going bankrupt or hitting rock bottom or hitting ground zero, right? That's what we're trying to get to. So I'd like you to really, as we come to the end of this podcast, and I'm hoping you've liked it. If you have, please do share, please do comment, please do like. That would really help me develop this podcast a little bit further. I'm planning, this is episode 1, series 1, and I'm planning to do more of these and all of this topic, all of this content. I'm planning to talk to individuals with a special interest in at least one of those 3 areas. Also, if I've mentioned the Wealth Formula and the Wealth Formula community, if you check any of my socials, if you check the bio, wherever you are listening to this podcast or watching this podcast, you'll be able to find my link tree, which is Graham David. All right, so my link tree is Graham David. And if you click that, you'll find 2 buttons. One of them is for the Wealth Reset, right? The 5-day Wealth Reset. It's free. You don't need to put your credit card in. And it's literally 5 emails over 5 days, giving you a little task linked to make money, save money, and find your balance in life. And already, this is a very new thing I'm building. But already, I'm getting people messaging me saying, "I've cancelled this and I've saved this much in year 1." It's just like really easy. I'd like you to at least consider looking at that. The other button on that link tree is join the wealth community, the wealth formula community. It's brand new. There's only, I think, 16, 17 people in there at the moment. It's free. Also, no credit card required. It's not on Facebook. It's a private community. So I'm attempting to build a genuine community of people who want to make more, save more, and get their balance. And the idea of a genuine group of people, rather than people trying to sell you multi-level marketing nonsense, is that you can say, look, I've been wondering about this side hustle. Anybody know anything? And somebody else could go, yeah, I did that. It's rubbish. Or actually, I'm wondering about that too. Why don't we do it together? It's a place where you can go in and read some ideas and think, oh, that sounds nice. I'll try that. And then you can post if you wish. Currently, I think there's only about 16, 17 posts in there. They're grouped into 6 key topic areas. There's a couple of downloads you can get. There's a download for setting up your TikTok. There's a download for why you should get up at 6 a.m. So they're grouped into areas about making money, long-term investments, social media. So I'm really hoping to develop this. Now, there is going to be a paid version offered later down the line if I can get enough people interested. But it's about getting a genuine critical mass of people that really want to do this, not people that are just trying to sell dodgy side hustles. So that's what I'm offering. That's what it is. My name's Graham David. That is the Wealth Rant. I'm hoping you've enjoyed episode 1, and I look forward to seeing you on episode 2.